the mass of a liquid varies directly with the volume. Now, we didn't do variance in algebra with what we learned this year, but this particular question is a lot like proportional relationships, which is something you learned in pre-algebra. So we're just going to approach it that way, and you'll see that it's very similar just to solving an equation. So you should be able to solve a question like this if you were to see one on the EOC. So a mass of liquid varies directly with the volume. The volume of 80 grams of substance is 3 gallons. So we have 80 grams to 3 gallons. Okay. What is the volume of 93.7 grams of the substance? So we're given 93.7, and we have to figure out how many gallons or what the volume is when we have 93.7 grams. So if you get rid of the units, all you have is an equation that you have to solve for x. So how can I solve for x in this equation? Does anybody remember? Once I did this to for my in-person classes, then all of a sudden something clicked. Okay, if we have a proportional relationship, we can cross multiply and then solve. So if I multiply 3 times 93.7, I'm going to get 281.1, and that's going to equal 80 times x, which is just 80x. Now all I need to do is solve for x, and to do that I can just divide by 80 and divide by 80, and I get 3.5 is equal to x, so it's 3.5 gallons. So B is my answer. Another student told me all they did was they figured out the unit rate, so they did 80 divided by 3, found out the unit rate, and then did 93.7 divided by the unit rate. Either one got you the same answer, and you can approach it whatever way makes the most sense for you. Okay, question number 2. What is the solution to negative 6x minus 7y when it's greater than 200? And that's when y is equal to 13. So we have this y is equal to 13. So we're going to plug that in for our y value in our equation. So we're going to have negative 6x minus 7 multiplied by 13. And that needs to be less than 200. So at that point, all we have to do is solve for x. So we can simplify by doing negative 7 times 13, which is going to be negative 91. So we have negative 6x minus 91 is less than 200. So I'm going to add 91 to both sides. And I get negative 6x is less than 291. And then I need to divide by 6, negative 6, and divide by negative 6. And I get x is equal to negative 48.5. It's not equal though. I need to be careful because I had an inequality sign. And because I divided by a negative number, that inequality sign is going to flip. So x is now going to be greater than negative 48.5. So that means that my answer here is going to be A. Moving on to question number 3, our function of the day. This particular function would not be a lot of fun to plug in these values that we have for x. So what you need to do, or what I would recommend doing, is pulling out your GCF, your greatest common factor, which is 10. So if I divide this whole function by 10, then I have 4x plus 3y is equal to 15. Now I want to do what I've done for all of my other functions of the day and put it in slope-intercept form. And so to put this in slope-intercept form, I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. And then I get 3y is equal to a negative 4x plus 15. And then I'm going to divide by 3. And I get y is equal to a negative 4/3 x plus 5. So I'm going to erase this just for a moment, because now that I have my equation in slope-intercept form, now I can use that to answer all the key parts for my function of the day. So my y-intercept is going to be my positive 5. So 0, 5, and I can also list that in the chart, and I can plot that point on my graph. Then I need to start finding my y values when I have my different x values. So I'm going to find f of negative 6 first. So I'm going to have a negative 4/3 multiplied by a negative 6 plus 5. So negative 4/3 multiplied by a negative 6. Remember, negative 4/3 multiplied by a 6/1. This is going to cancel out, and this becomes 2. Negative 4 times, and that's a negative. So negative 4 times negative 2 is going to be a positive 8, plus 5 is equal to 13. Then I'm going to find f of negative 3. That's going to be negative 4/3 multiplied by a negative 3 plus 5. Well, negative 4/3 times a negative 3, these are going to cancel out, and I'm going to have negative 4 plus 5. I'm going to have a positive 4 plus 5, which is 9. I don't need to do f of 0, but I do need to do f of 3. When I do f of 3, I'm going to have a negative 4/3 multiplied by 3 plus 5. Now I'm going to have my negative 4 plus 5, which is going to be 1. And so my y value here is 1. So this is the other point that I can graph. It's going to be 3, 1. And then I need to find f of 6. So negative 4/3 multiplied by 6 plus 5. That's going to be a negative 8 plus 5, which is equal to a negative 3. And I can also plot this point on my graph. So I'm at 6, negative 3, 1, 2, 3. And there's my point. Okay, don't forget to take out your GCF if you are dealing with an equation. As long as you multiply or divide the entire equation by the same number, you do not change the equation. So I'm sure you'd rather deal with smaller numbers than dealing with 40, 30, and 150.